Well, guys, I don't really know how to start this video, but I guess I'll just introduce myself for anybody that has never seen me or my channel before. My name is Savanna Stanhope, and I started this channel about 6 years ago. I believe I was about 18. And I started it to talk about my passion and interest in nutrition at the time. And when I started this channel, I was very much into veganism and into a plant-based diet, and so that's kind of why I started the channel. And all of my videos on this channel up until today's video have been about vegan recipes, vegan nutrition, information, and well, this video is going to be a big change to that because I am no longer vegan, and I do still follow somewhat of a plant-based diet, which is why it's taken me so long to even, think about making this video, because my diet hasn't changed that much, but veganism and a vegan diet is a lot different than just what foods you're eating. It's a whole ethical, philosophy and lifestyle, so I definitely want to make that distinction because some people understandably, get kind of bothered by people saying like a vegan diet, because it's a lot more than that. So today I wanted to talk about why I started including meat back into my diet, and to a lesser extent eggs and dairy. I've noticed that I can't handle a lot of those foods without them giving me an immune reaction, which for me it's like hives all over my body from those food. But basically why meat and fish have just had such a positive benefit to my health, and which was a total surprise to me because I've spent the last 5-6 years thinking that a plant-based diet was like the best kind of diet, and I held that belief for so long because it was the diet that got me better from where I was in high school, and I was extremely, extremely sick in high school. So I guess I'll start there because it's all kind of connected. But basically, when I was 15, I was diagnosed with celiac disease, which is, I guess, your body initiates an immune response when it sees gluten, which is a protein in wheat, barley, and rye. When that comes into your system by eating foods like bread and pasta and all the fun stuff that we grow up on, your body decides it doesn't like it. It sees it as a foreign protein, and it sends out an attack. And that attack of antibodies ends up kind of harming your digestive system because it can't always distinguish what is the protein that it's trying to dispose of and fight against, and it ends up hurting your small intestine. So when I was 15, I started to have all these problems. Whenever I eat anything, it seemed like I just my stomach would bloat out. I would go from having severe constipation to severe diarrhea. It was a never normal, never normal in the bathroom, I'll just say. And so I got tested. I got the blood test first. They saw the celiac antibodies in me, and then they did an endoscopy. So they put me under, they put a scope down my throat, and they were able to take pictures and videos of my small intestine. And what they could see is normally in the small intestine there's these finger-like projections called villi, and they're responsible for absorbing nutrients in your food, and they should be normally nice and flowy, kind of finger-like. And in my small intestine, the villi were flat because of the damage that my own body was essentially doing to itself, because there was this gluten, in my system from eating, cereal in the morning and sandwiches for lunch and pasta for dinner, and just we a lot of us grew up on that kind of food. And my mom also has celiac, and so thankfully you know, when she started seeing that I was having these digestive problems, like she got me to the doctor pretty quickly. You know, I mean, I still was 15 years old, but my symptoms started showing up maybe like I don't know for sure, but I would guess maybe at 13 I started to really like feel like something's wrong. Like I can't like go to the bathroom normally, and it's such a hard thing to deal with. The stomach aches and the pain, just terrible. So, anyway, got put on a gluten free diet. That really helped. But something was just still not right. And it could have just been from the damage that was done and my body was still healing. But I just could not seem to really digest anything without either being really constipated or having like spouts of diarrhea that were just like, I would be on the toilet for hours. And I'm thinking it was maybe when I was 16 or 17, things really took a turn for the worse, and I was developing ulcers in my stomach, and then I had a H. pylori infection in my stomach. Um, so something was happening like all throughout my intestinal tract, and just so much inflammation, so much bloating. Yet I was getting thinner and thinner, and so I remember being, you know, I've been about 5'2.5" to 5'3" in height for a while, like probably since I was 15, and I was 85 pounds my senior year of high school. I was extremely, extremely thin. And that was in part because just of not being able to like process food normally, but also like I just was becoming more and more scared of food because it would have all this pain associated with it and discomfort. And I used to get so bloated that my ribs would hurt the next day because my stomach was just so distended, you know. So this was what was happening when I was following a gluten-free diet. Just like my parents and I were so like at loss to explain it, and I would be driven to the hospital in the middle of the night, like several times a week, you know, for like a period of a couple of months my senior year in high school, because I would like wake up and my stomach would just, it would feel like someone was stabbing my stomach, and like it was just horrible, you know. I was so, I was getting so depressed because I was missing so much school and I wasn't able to see my friends. You know, I was trying to like explain to some of like my closer friends, I guess, what was going on, but like it's not something that you really want to talk about. Like digestive issues are like kind of a private thing and like an embarrassing thing to talk about. And so I just like, I didn't even really want to tell anybody. So my friends were just kind of like, what's going on? Like, Savannah hasn't been to school for like weeks and weeks at a time. And I did tell like some of my closest friends at the time, um, and they were just like, they helped me a lot. Like I had one friend that would bring me my homework, and you know, one friend that would just stay up at night when my symptoms were really bad and just talk to me and try to comfort me, and like, you know. But I was just growing really distant from the people and the things that I used to love, you know, just hobbies and school. I used to love school, but I just was having to do it all from home. Um, so that went on for like a good year and a half, and at the worst, it was like a like really intense 6 months towards the end of my high school. I got out of high school, and this was kind of like the next chapter because I had seen a dietitian and she was encouraging me to try to just eat more regularly, and not like be scared of foods, but just like try to find the foods that sat well with me. And so I was trying to do that. And then came the big turning points. I found YouTube videos on veganism, but specifically, I found Freely the Banana Girl. And I think a lot of my viewers will be familiar with her, because I used to make some videos in the past talking about her diet and, just kind of critiquing different things. But when I first found her, I like fell head over heels for the whole eat as much fruit as you want and eat as much carbs as you want, and you will become, this beautiful, thin, athletic person, really, really healthy. And to be honest, that helped me so much because for like a good 3 years, I just was in constant fear of food. And so it was a really big struggle for me to like have like a regular way of eating, that I felt like this is working, like I love this. And Freely's whole thing was like eat a lot of fruit. Fruit comes first, and then towards the end of the day, maybe include some starchy foods like pasta, potatoes, rice, non-gluten foods. And so I started doing that, and I started like smashing the bananas, guys. My parents thought I was crazy because I was like going to the store and getting like, oh my god, like 40 pounds of bananas and like just hundreds of bananas, and waiting until they would ripen and then freezing them so I could put them in smoothies and having like 10 banana smoothies. And my god, did that ever work temporarily to make me feel so much better, because all of a sudden I went from eating basically nothing in the morning, nothing for lunch, because I was like, I just don't want a stomach ache. Like, it honestly feels better to just fast and drink water and drink tea until dinner, and then maybe I can have like a small meal of something simple. But it was just driving me crazy because my cravings were like off the wall, and I just like, I was still very underweight and just not feeling good, like tired all the time, and still having like really bad digestive issues. And so Freely got me eating bananas, in the morning, smoothies and whatever. And I did have like a lot of digestive changes the first few months that I did that, and a lot of stomach aches and a lot of bloating and a lot of pain from those big banana smoothies. But I feel like my body got used to it, and my brain was telling me, because Freely was telling me, don't worry, this will pass. This is just temporary, and your body is going to start running more efficiently. And in some ways, that was true, totally, because I just, I would get like a lot of stomach pain sometimes from these smoothies, but sometimes I could just like down a smoothie, feel completely fine, and I had so much energy from it. I got my life back. That, the first few months of doing that, I got my life back. It was incredible, because I had been like unintentionally starving myself in fear of food, and then all of a sudden my brain was telling me I can trust bananas, I can trust fruit, I can trust vegan foods, because vegan foods are gonna heal me. And I totally bought into it, and it for sure helped. Now, about 6 months into this, I started noticing like I wasn't feeling as good as I felt, when I first started. And so I was, getting into more of like the nutritional side of things, and I didn't just want to be like, the high fruit vegan just because. Like, I really wanted to find out what's the healthiest way of having a plant-based diet. Am I having like enough B12? Am I supplementing correctly? Am I getting enough protein and fat? And I slowly started to realize that like this whole high carb, low fat vegan thing was really restrictive, and it just wasn't like, it was bothering my stomach towards the end of a couple months. And so I started to include more foods like hemp seeds and avocados and chia seeds and peanut butter and tofu and protein powder, and all of those things. Like, I felt like they were just rounding out my vegan diet, and I was feeling pretty good doing that. But all throughout this whole experience, my digestive issues never really got better. Like, my energy levels got better because I was finally eating food again, and I was pushing myself to have regular meals and to include, like, I made up a whole diet called the microvore diet to help myself and to help other people try to make balanced meals, because I thought that was really the key. Like, okay, so we're gonna make a meal. You want to have some, like, brown rice for your complex carbs, and some beans for your protein and more carbs, and then some colorful vegetables, get in a variety of colors, and then a source of fats. And I really thought, like, this is just such a great idea. I should write a book about this. And I did. And to my knowledge, I mean, I got a lot of positive feedback from people, and a lot of people improved their health following it. And so I'm still very proud of that. I'm proud of that book. I'm proud of the message that I put out with it. Just that you shouldn't fear food. It's about nourishing your body. That is what food should be. And so this video and talking about this is a little hard for me because I am conflicted. I still believe that a plant-based diet with proper supplementation can be really healthy and helpful, and I'm proud of the book that I put out. I've made a couple books, different variations of a vegan diet. But at the same time, now I have to talk about what I've experienced including other foods into my diet from animal origins, because this is actually what has changed my health and actually improved the digestive system that I've suffered from since I was like 13 years old. And it's all very interesting to me because I still have that passion for the nutritional science, and now it's just becoming more like backed up with like historical diets and like what people have eaten for hundreds of thousands of years and what actually makes sense, like what our bodies are more or less designed to eat. Okay, sorry, I had to stop for a second and just collect my thoughts. Because now I want to kind of get into the differences that I've noticed, including animal products back into my diet, and basically when I started to do this, and why I haven't made this video sooner, because it was like really difficult for me to reach this point where I'm just like, I do not see myself giving up meat again. I do not see myself giving up these foods that I've come to appreciate for their nutritional power. Because up until now, it's been more or less an experiment for me. Like I'd say I've gone longer stints with plant-based eating, no animal products, than I have with eating animal products and like not eating the plant foods that trigger me, that trigger my IBS symptoms. So the first time that I broke a plant-based diet and had something that was not a plant food was when I was in Costa Rica, and basically I had moved in with my boyfriend. He's my husband now, Charlie, but we had gone to Costa Rica for a trip, and I was feeling just really run down. My digestive issues have always been bad. I shared that with him. He was like kind of vegan at the time. Like he has done like he's done like raw vegan diets. He's done like more of a low carb, high protein vegan diet. So he was very familiar with veganism, and he was more or less doing that when he met me and when we moved to Costa Rica. But he had also kind of come off of it at certain times and was just eating normally or eating more like a paleo diet. And when I like opened up and told him about like all these digestive issues that I had when I was younger and still had, still having problems, going to the bathroom regularly, he was really sympathetic and understanding, and he suggested that I, what if you were to try eating meat and eating more of a paleo diet? Because I told him like, a lot of my symptoms seem to get so much worse when I'm eating beans and grains. You know, I like started to really notice that like the beans and the grains and even the starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, that sort of thing, were just giving me like the worst pain ever. And I just was totally, I hated the feeling that I got from them. So I was telling him this, and he was like, you know, that sounds like the paleo diet. Like, you know, they say that that grains especially, you know, are not fit for consumption, and that can cause a lot of problems. And so he was like, why don't you just try the paleo diet? And I was just like, I don't think I want to do that. That doesn't sound, I just didn't really buy into it. I was like, a vegan diet is still like the healthiest. Like, I just need to figure out a version of the vegan diet that I can do. But in Costa Rica, I did end up trying some eggs that we got from a farmer's market, because at that time I was like, I don't want to eat meat, but maybe if I have a couple eggs and I notice any difference, then maybe I'll start to include some eggs, some ethically raised eggs into my diet, and I can be kind of like a vegetarian, I guess. And so I did that, and boy, oh boy, what the experience that was. So I think he had ended up making like some sort of a soup with vegetables, and we were kind of gonna do like an egg dropped ramen sort of thing. And when I had it that night, he had made it for dinner. I just felt this really, really weird sensation in my stomach, like, and my brain, like this sense of like, oh, I don't know. It was like more satiated than I had been in years, because I was used to eating like big amounts of food to get myself to be full. But after just one bowl of this soup that had maybe like 2 eggs in it, I just felt like this buzz going throughout my whole body. And, you know, in my stomach, I felt totally fine. I wasn't getting bloated like I normally did after eating meals. And my brain just felt like just anxiety and like all of that just like leaving my body completely. And I just felt totally calm and zen for the whole rest of the night. And I just knew that I was just like, there's got to be something that I've been missing. And I had been taking a vegan multivitamin, I'd been taking B12, vitamin D, omega-3s, like the vegan version of omega-3s, for years, very consistently. And that was a very powerful experience, and that was just from 2 eggs. And so that did not last very long though in Costa Rica. Like, I very soon went back to eating a vegan diet, because I was just like, I guess I just forgot like what that feeling felt like and maybe what it meant. And what was more important to me at that time was you know, the people that were looking up to me for advice on a vegan diet, and my own sense of I really want to continue being vegan. Like, this is important to me. I don't want to eat eggs. I definitely don't want to eat meats. And you know, my health isn't that bad. Maybe my digestive issues are just going to be like what I have to deal with, you know? I feel like a lot of people in this world, they always deal with something, you know? You've got Aunt Marie who has arthritis, and you've got Uncle Bob that has skin tags or whatever, you know? Like, we're human. Like, we deal with stuff. Maybe my thing is just I'm gonna have digestive issues my whole life, no matter what I eat. So what's the point? Like, veganism is important to me. I want to keep doing it. And so I went back to that, and everything was pretty much the same, and I kept making YouTube videos. And just keep in mind that all this time I was dealing with insane digestive problems. You know, just never really feeling like things were working the way they're supposed to. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, but it's kind of secondary to all this because it's not something that ever caused me significant pain like my digestive problems have, but I do want to talk about, and that is my skin, particularly the skin on my face right here. So I suffered from acne a lot sooner, I think, than most kids. It was probably like about grade 5, maybe when I was like, what age are you when you're in grade 5? Like 10? 12? I want to say like 10, maybe. Started getting acne at a really young age, and I think that was probably related to celiac disease and just terrible acne, all throughout my teenage years. Like, used to cover up in so much makeup because it was just horrible, like cystic acne and whiteheads and really bumpy skin. Well, when I went high carb, low fat vegan, so much of that got so much better, and I think it was because of dairy can cause a lot of acne for people. So cutting out dairy and cutting out a lot of oils really helped my skin. But it has been so dry, like for the past 5 years, that it didn't even feel like human skin. It's only when I include meat and eggs and fish that my skin even resembles normal human skin. Right now, like, I'm about 2 weeks eating very low grains, very low starches, just prioritizing meat and eggs and all that stuff. And my skin is actually like just looking like a baby's skin, like pretty nice, right? But all the time that I was vegan, my skin was like paper thin, extremely dry, flaky, bumpy, like crazy, like not even pimples. I don't even know what causes those bumps. They're like closed comedones, or however you say that, and whiteheads, and like just really awful complexion. Looks like snake skin. Ah. Anyway, so that's secondary. I know they say that skin is very closely tied to digestive issues. And so when my digestion began to heal from including animal foods in my diet, my skin also responded positively. But anyway, that's kind of like a little... Let's get back to the main story, which is just how I kind of realized that I need animal products in my diet to be healthy and for my digestive system issues to be under control. And so, like, about a year ago, when Charlie and I moved to Boston for his job there, one morning he was eating eggs, and I had that same kind of like urge that I got in Costa Rica to try them again. And the same thing happened. Like, the same thing happened. The whole body zen feeling, and just like feeling totally like at peace and grounded and calm. And my stomach was just like, yum, like, this feels good, I'm full, thank you. And that lasted hours and hours, and just, that was kind of like, I don't know if I would even call that a turning point, because I've gone back and forth so many times, but that was another time that I experienced this. And actually later on that day, after that morning of eating eggs, I went to Whole Foods and I bought salmon. I bought wild Atlantic, wild Atlantic salmon, and I bought some goat kefir. And I don't know why, like, I was just feeling like, okay, I've tried the eggs, I want to try some other stuff. Tried the fish, tried the kefir. I think the next night might have had some ground turkey or something. And for that whole week, it was like I was changing into a different person. And I noticed it in my skin very rapidly. I'd wake up and just touch my skin, and it just felt like I was a different person. Like I had a different face. I had skin that felt like it was a child's, And I'm like, Charlie's like looking at me and being like, you look completely different. Like, this is really helping you. And I'd wake up, and instead of having like, I used to wake up with so much stomach pain, and like I'd have to drink a lot of coffee to get myself to go to the bathroom. And if I didn't go to the bathroom, then I'd have like stomach aches all day from the food just sitting in me. And I would wake up and my stomach was so flat, and I just like had no gas pain, had no bloating, had no pain whatsoever. And I would have, a cup of coffee as normal, and I would go to the bathroom normally, which was like, whoa, is this what normal people do? Like this is awesome. It's like, it's embarrassing to talk about, but like, honestly, like, it's a good feeling to just not be scared that you're gonna have stomach aches like for the rest of the day. And like, I just, it was just a different feeling. Anyway, that did not last because I went back to a vegan diet. Like, probably only a week or two later, I was just like, I don't know, this stuff is pretty cool, not having stabbing stomach pain and having really nice soft skin, but maybe there's another version of the vegan diet that will do the same thing. Maybe if I include more hemp seeds, I'll also have no stomach pain and really soft skin. Maybe it's like, maybe I need to cut out grains and try to do more like a paleo vegan diet. But my mind was always coming back to, even though these animal foods are like obviously helping me, I can't continue to eat them. Like, I want to be vegan. So I would flip flop, and I would only do like maybe a week at most of eating animal foods, but I would do longer stretches of eating vegan for probably the next year, And at that time, I was changing the wording in my recipes and the wording in my blogs, like a lot of it, to be vegan, instead of vegan to say plant-based, because a lot of people do eat a plant-based diet, but they still include some animal foods, but they eat predominantly plant-based. And so I was thinking like, that's basically what I'm doing. And for the majority of the time, like, I'm eating plant-based. And I still like really like, I was eating my own recipes that were on my blog. I was sharing them. People were loving them. So I just saw no reason to come out with a video like this saying I'm no longer vegan, because I don't like drama. I don't like making a big fuss, and I'm only making this video because I know that I've watched so many ex-vegan videos at this point, and I've found them really helpful, to just hear another person's story and to hear them talk about their problems and how they were fixed by including meat, eggs, and dairy into their diet again. And it's really like, I guess, finally snapped me out of thinking that I have to eat a plant-based diet forever and that's like the healthiest diet, because I know that it's not. Unfortunately, I would like for it to be. I would like to say that it's possible to not ever kill animals and to completely have them out of our diet and be healthy. But the truth that I've come to personally is that, unfortunately, in some ways, we're put on this earth, and it's kind of like, welcome to earth. This is a place where life eats life. No matter if you are a deer grazing on grass, or you are a wolf hunting down that deer, or if you're a human, raising animals, on a farm, giving them a good life, and then slaughtering them one day. Like, there is sadness, there is death, life is not all roses, and it's sad. Even people that eat no animals at all, and buy a lot of grains and have their whole diet is just like mock meat made with grains and soy and corn and all that. Like, that has a tremendous effect on the environment and a tremendous loss of life. Animals that have been displaced by crops, trees and forests that have been cut down to make way for crops. eating sustainably, eating ethically is so much bigger than not eating animals. Like, it sucks, but a really good book that I read, actually, I have it right here, one sec. This screwed with my head so much because it completely changed the way that I thought about like agriculture, you know? It's called Ishmael, and it's from the point of view of a gorilla. It sounds kind of weird. Anyway, you should read it. I'm not doing it justice, but it goes into talking about like what has happened since we started like large scale agriculture and like not working for our food, basically, like letting all our food come from these big industries, whereas in the past it's just been so much more sustainable to catch our own food, to to hunt our own food, to gather, to fish, and even small scale responsible farming, and how basically like the loss of that has completely disconnected us from nature. So where was I in my story? I'm sorry, this is so long. But so for like the past year or so, I've been like flip-flopping, doing kind of longer stretches of not eating meat. But every single time I start to have what used to be my normal diet, beans and falafel and burgers, plant-based burgers, and grains and starchy foods and all that, my skin starts to fall apart very rapidly and my digestive issues come back. And I've noticed it to be the worst, like when I'm eating a lot of starchy foods. And I've tried a low-carb, non-starchy, vegan diet, and that has also not helped very much. And at that point where I'm like living off of tofu scramble and living off of vegan protein shakes and vegetables and fruits, it starts to feel very much like an eating disorder because I'm not able to, I can't eat potatoes, I can't eat grains, I can't eat meat, can't eat eggs, like all these things, all these foods that I can't eat start to pile up, and it gets very stressful. So I would say that of all the different vegan diets that I have tried, the one that my digestive system is most okay with, even though it still is nowhere near as good as it is when I'm just eating more like paleo diet, would be kind of like a lower carb, non-starchy food vegan diet. But like I just mentioned, like it is just not fun. It's not sustainable. It's not the diet that I want to do for the rest of my life. Whereas having meals kind of centered more or less around meat, I can go, okay, so tonight I'm having meatloaf and a side of vegetables. And eggs somewhat, like they seem to give me hives, and so I'm really backing off of them lately. I have just tried to reintroduce eggs, and the hives come, which, not a fan of hives. They're not fun. Very itchy and ugly. Dairy, I just don't like dairy enough to really include it in any way. Maybe I'll try to include it, like, I don't know, goat dairy, goat yogurt maybe in the future. But I'm okay with keeping that off of my menu. And salmon has been an amazing food for my health. It is just loaded with so many nutrients. And I do grass-fed beef, grass-fed bison. We do different kinds of fish, tuna, like low mercury, sustainably caught tuna. Charlie and I, we really try to get like the best options, like we're not just buying like supermarket meat and stuff. Like we really are trying to get, at least right now, the grass-fed, the organic stuff. We hardly have chicken, just because like it's just not really like, we know that we can't really find a farm that does their own chickens and that feeds them like grass-fed. So we're kind of like, we don't really eat that much chicken, but we do eat a lot of grass-fed red meat and fish. So yeah, let's see. I've I've just decided that the paleo diet, more or less, sometimes I'll not have like exactly like the paleo diet guidelines or whatever, but more or less, I think those are the foods that most people do really well on because they're real foods. They're foods that you can go out, if you have the knowledge. You can go out and you can pick these foods. You can pick the edible leaves of plants. You can grow them in your garden. You can fish. You can hunt. You can raise a farm of animals. These things are just so much more, I don't know how to explain it. They're just, I don't even know if I want to say natural, because obviously we no longer live in a natural world. I'm filming this with my phone's camera. You're watching it on your laptop or computer or phone. But it just makes more sense to me. We should be eating foods that are more or less easily obtainable, not that require all this processing and packaging and plastic. I wanted to talk a little bit about why I think meats and eggs and fish and those types of foods are beneficial for people with IBS and with skin issues like me. Because I really just am interested in like the science of it. And so I feel like I'm wanting to make like some more videos about this, to get into it in more depth. But I just think like the saturated fats and the monounsaturated fats and the protein in animal products are just so, your body just knows what to do with them, like these foods have been around for a very long time. We've been eating meat, and some types of vegetables and fruits for a very long time, and I think like our body just knows what to do with those foods. Whereas with grains, with nuts, with seeds, there are these proteins that we just, lectins and phytates and just anti-nutrients that our bodies are having to kind of like deal with. These proteins our body kind of sees as foreign, just like my body specifically sees gluten as a foreign protein, and it wages this immune response. Like, I think that immune response can happen with a lot of other grains. One of the other worst triggers, even gluten-free oats, are a huge trigger for me. Like, they cause me a stomach ache like nothing else. And they're supposedly gluten-free, if you buy certified gluten-free brands. But yeah, I think that people were able to eat a lot of grains, but that they did a lot of soaking and they did a lot of fermentation to make them edible and to reduce those anti-nutrients and those chemicals that cause like really bad stomach issues and immune responses. So, that's something to think about. Like, I feel worlds better not eating rice, not eating quinoa. The most viewed video on my channel right now, I think it's like at over 400,000 views, is my quinoa bread. And like, people love that stuff, and I used to love it so much. And I think it's a really good recipe. And I mean, I just don't really do well on grains, and so I really don't make it that often anymore. But it is, one way that you can include grains is make sure you soak those quinoa grains before you blend it up and bake it. It'll make it so much more digestible. Anyway, yeah, just meat, dairy, eggs, fish, they have these, maybe not dairy, I will say. A lot of people don't do so well on dairy. I personally don't do that well on dairy. But the other foods, like, they just have like the saturated fat, the cholesterol, and the protein that your body is made up of. It's made up of those things. If you're not getting them in your diet, I'm not gonna say you're gonna slowly waste away. Like, there's vegan bodybuilders out there, they're doing just fine. Some people do just fine eating a plant-based diet. But for people like myself with digestive issues, I find them so incredibly beneficial. I feel like worlds better, having them in my diet, kind of basing my meal around them, and not just stuffing in so much plant foods, like so much fiber. They tell you, like, oh my god, my dietitian when I was younger, I was telling her, like, I'm always constipated, like I can't go to the bathroom. But other times, like, I'll just like not be able to stop going to the bathroom, and she's like, the answer is fiber. Like, you have to have um, extra fiber. You have to, do like the whole grain stuff. Like, the answer is fiber. You need more fiber. Eat fiber, 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 fiber. But the total opposite thing happened to me when I'd have a lot of fiber. Like, my symptoms get 10 times worse. I have way more stomach aches, and I don't eat a carnivore diet. I'm not like eating only meat, guys. But including meat in my diet and having my meals with them has allowed me to significantly reduce all the other foods that I was eating that were super high in fiber and super high in the things that really triggered my stomach aches. And so now I have like some meat, and I have a side of vegetables and fruit, a lot of fruit for snacks I'm fine with. And it's a moderate amount of fiber, and I just feel so much better. I really want to pass on my experience to people considering starting a vegan diet, because they want to improve their IBS symptoms, or maybe they have acne and skin issues. Because if I were to go back in time to my teenage self when I was dealing with the digestive issues that landed me in the hospital a couple times a week, I would have told myself not to start eating 20 bananas a day and exclude all animal products and only eat a vegan diet for the next 5 years. I would not say that. I would go back in time and I would tell myself, eat a paleo diet, cut out grains, because you have celiac disease. Gluten really triggers your symptoms, but other grains do as well. And you will just feel so much better eating just very, very natural, very basic foods. Like, look into Whole30, guys. Like, that's a really good plan. I'm not gonna lie, like, I do watch a lot of those carnivore videos, just because I find them interesting. But I personally, like, I don't know if I would ever do that. I don't know. We'll see. Never say never, but yeah. So that's my video, guys. I do apologize. It's been kind of too long. I should have put it out before, but like I said, like, I've just gone back and forth so many times. Like, I've driven my husband crazy, I'm sure. Like, he knows too. Like, I'll just make a grocery list one day, and like, instead of putting like, our usual like paleo foods on it, I'll like start to include like tofu and like, some seeds and vegetables, and he'll like notice, and he'll be like, uh-oh, like, Savvy's gonna go vegan again. Like, we all know where this is gonna lead, and then like, I'm just gonna be like, hun, don't worry about it. Like, I'm just trying it. I just got this idea. Maybe I'll try it this way this time. And then like a couple weeks will go by, or even like a couple months sometimes. And then he won't say anything, but I'll be like, ugh, honey, like, my skin is just like becoming disgusting again. Like, I wonder if I should maybe start to include meat again. And then he'll say like, yeah, like, I didn't want to say anything, but your skin just looks so beautiful when you're eating fish and when you're eating meat. Like, it's worlds different. Like, when you've been vegan for even a week or two, it just starts to look really bad, and then you're complaining about having digestive issues. And so it's just a very clear correlation. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so we've done that so many times, and he's so understanding, and he does not force his opinions or observations on me at all, but he will definitely acknowledge the fact that my health is so much better, you know, eating like more of the paleo diet. So in that way, he's incredibly supportive, and yeah, I really hope that if you guys are considering trying to change your diet, that you have somebody that can support you doing that too, because it really does help. Yeah, well, I hope you guys are doing well. I mean, we're kind of in a crazy time right now, as you're aware, and yeah, I hope you're healthy and you're doing well and staying sane. And let me know what you think about all this, and if you have any questions, and I would love to answer them. So, all right, have a good day, guys. Bye.